Hey, welcome back. We're going to be doing the Literati video a little bit differently today. My name is Miss Dee Dee Davis, and we're going to be reading Bettyville. We're going to do an over-the-shoulder shot and go over some of my marginalia about the book that we have read over the past month. So I don't know what other people's responses. I haven't heard other than one person said that it was sad, which is true. The topics can be kind of heavy. So you're going to see my handwritten notes here, so bear with me. And I'm going to be reading some little snippets of here. And none of this is continuous or there's no continuity, it just bounces around. So Missouri is a state of stolen names. It lists a whole bunch of different cities within the state. It drives me nuts when people do that. It's like when the Pilgrims left Plymouth, they landed in Plymouth. It's like, come up with something new. Please, for the love of God, come up with something new. However, I know a lot of people name whether children or places with hopes that they will emulate or be, the fame will rub off. But in reality, what happens is just confuses people. So this takes place partially in Paris, Missouri. So don't get excited because we're not in France. Okay, so other snippets. The way the prose is written, the author, George Hodgeman, is very wry and droll and very kind of sarcastic, just very kind of flat. And it really is hilarious. And I know it's not everybody's humor, but it's really funny. I have so many little bits I took out that were LOL or laugh out loud or oh my gosh or this is hilarious or whatever. So for example, on this one right here, it says, a month ago I thought the Medicare donut hole was a breakfast special for seniors. I'm a care inflictor. So yeah, well, some of these things are just it's just really funny. And there's a lot of insights here going on to get a better understanding. This is a memoir. And this gentleman is an older gay man who is currently, at the time, living in New York and moved down to Paris, Missouri to take care of his 91-year-old mother who is suffering from dementia. And at some point, initially, his father was there, but he had passed away from a heart attack. The insight says that old people who are failing get the angriest with those they are most attached to, the people who make them realize that they're no longer themselves. And it talks about the people who hurt us most are the people who we love. Those are the ones that inflict some of the deepest pain we'll ever know. So the premise of this book is talking about not talking, which is ironic. The whole relationship between the mother and the son is tiptoeing around issues. They don't talk about it. The thing is, all these unsaid things. You can feel tension from it, or the heaviness of hurt. So for example, we circle around her sadness, but she will not let me share it, acknowledging anything that would make it real. These, I fear, are her last days as herself. Mom doesn't talk about the dementia or her fears, or even when he was growing up. They just weren't a chatty family in a direct sort of way. This book actually the circumstances reminds me of some family members of mine, which is the relatableness of it is one of the reasons why the book was chosen. Again, the prose is a little bit choppy or disjointed sometimes, it seems, but it's his voice. It works. It took me a couple of chapters to really get into it, to get an understanding of it. But once I did, it was pretty hilarious and pretty sweet and pretty painful. There's some really deep moments in here, but he never directly says it. So I don't know how he accomplishes that. It's some kind of sorcery that I don't know quite how he goes about it. But a lot of short sentences that say things that are never direct. Nothing in this book is direct, but yet the reader understands what's going through. Okay, so this one's funny. Forgive me if I mispronounce this because I am deaf and pronunciation is a little bit sketchy for me. So I found out that this word means law. Just like chai means tea. So saying chai tea is tea, and shira law is law. So there's this passage that says, long ago there was an opera house, a grand hotel, a woolen mill that produced yarns, flannels, and blankets. There was pottery works, a flour mill, plow, wagon, shoe factories, tobacco warehouses, a feed store, a livery stable, a factory where a cigar, Queen of Paris, were made, and a wooden Indian stood out front. At Murphy and Bodine's clothing store, a huge stuffed bear in the window displayed men's coats and hats. And he goes on to describe this as a small town aesthetic and a small town. This whole section here is about small town evolution. And until I moved here, I didn't quite appreciate or understand how one small thing can create such big waves in a small town. So, we talk here in Casa Grande, if one store closes, everybody knows about it. Everybody has an opinion about it. If we get a new store or restaurant or something comes in, everybody hears about it. Everybody knows about it. Everybody has an opinion on it. Where if you go up to the Valley or Chandler or even Tucson, I have no idea what's closing. I have no idea what's opening. And it doesn't have like a huge impact on me. Whereas here, the changes are palpable and oftentimes painful. And it makes such a huge difference when the town is smaller than when you go to the cities. And then that's what he talked about. So I can relate to this now when he talks about how, these towns are disappearing. All these things they used to have no longer exist. Maybe it's impossible to come home again and not to wonder how it is that things turned out quite this way. Why am I here? How it came to this. How it is that I cannot quite find the appropriate term for my lifestyle. Why is it that my mother simply shakes her head and I share details of my existence? Why she cannot bring herself to speak of my life. So I goes back to that quote, the famous quote where we can never go home again, or a man can step in the river twice, something like that. But also I think there are moments where people have where they step back and think, how did I get here? How is it that I'm right here, right now? How do I feel about that? What led me here? I'm not happy. What could have I done, or what can I do? On pages 30 and 31, it reminds me a lot of my mother and my grandmother. For those who have not taken care of an older adult, it is an experience. And I was on the periphery of that. So my grandmother passed a couple of years ago, about 4 or 5 years ago. And my mom went to help. My mom was the only daughter in the family, went to assist my nana. And the doctor said, oh, she's declining somewhat rapidly. You might want to think about pitching in more. And so literally like every weekend or every other weekend for 2.5 years, my mother would stay for a weekend or even longer to assist with her. I saw how much it drained my mom. I saw how much trained my nana and how, it was not ideal situation, and it's just hard to talk about that. None of our groups can understand that. Like the assortment of strange relics in our basement, I have some cracks, broken ships, missing pieces. I've spent my life trailed by voices in my head saying, you're no good, this isn't right, you're not right. My skin is sometimes the most uncomfortable garment of all. I have wandering eyes that do not easily meet the glances of others. And shaking hands with new acquaintances, I still wonder if my grip is right. Is it manly enough? I tell too many jokes. In a city of arrogant wristwatches, I have rarely been able to keep a Timex running right. It reminds me of another book quote from Cassandra Clare called City of Lost Souls, which also has a gay character in it. It says it's not one big bad thing. It's a million little paper cuts every day. And I think a lot of people don't understand how many people worry about their grip, how many people worry about passing, how many people, every little increments and glances and not being able to hold eye contact or to present a certain way that makes both parties feel comfortable. This also has to do with his delivery and his writing and his prose, which again is just a great visuals. Because next it was church about the meeting later, then a recorded message announcing Betty's, his mother, upcoming appointment with her GP, general practitioner, refusing to answer the telephone herself. My mother balked at even being called to the receiver. On the line, she oozed the frustration of a mob boss dissatisfied with the morning tallies from Vegas. What a great, what a great analogy. So she is Betty in this case. As she starts into the room, she rallies, she straightens her shoulder, she heads into the fray, reaching for my arm as I leave to say that she's sorry. When my mother walks into the meeting, I think of all the people quietly doing so many things that are hard. This is her going into church, where she was having physically difficult for her, and she was very worried about messing up the hymn. She's a pianist, and she kept practicing and kept messing them up at home, and she was terrified that she was going to screw it up when she went to church. The dementia patients suffer from a phenomenon called sundowner syndrome, which worsens their symptoms at night. So here we get to the bit about the library. Kind of exciting, but it's actually really sad. I went to the library where it seemed that there was something I felt driven to find hidden in the books. There were 3 floors, thousands of books. On a shelf, in a pile, in a newspaper or magazine, I had to be there somewhere. There had to be someone whose insides felt like mine. "What are you looking for?" a librarian asked me one day. "You always look like you're looking for something. Can I help you?" I don't know exactly. I don't know. A lot of people are restless and longing to be found, to belong. But if you find yourself in a book, it makes it all that much more beautiful. Well, I would never try to inflict this hurt again. In an instant, 1,000 choices were made. This was the beginning of many silences to follow our struggle with words. And again, their whole dynamic is never saying anything outright to each other, always deflecting, always tiptoeing around issues. And I have silence is worse sometimes. Oftentimes, silence is worse than addressing the issue, or just the pressure of the hurt just keeps piling on and keeps piling on. It says shame is inventive, but she cares for his parents and he doesn't want to hurt them by being who he is, so he doesn't be who he is with them. When I let my mind wander back that far, what I see is how hard we try to be our best for one another. And there is a saying, expectation is the root of all sadness, of all disappointment. He starts to notice, as he gets older, starts to notice more gay kids in the city. And he says they had that vibe, and he's always drawn to the different ones, the ones who were always unconventional. Hilarious quips, but there's also just really deep pain. I didn't know how you guys felt, if you overall liked the book, but took you a while to get into it. Were you expecting something else? Were you disappointed because you were expecting something else? What did you guys think of Bettyville? Would you recommend this to anyone? And voila! It's The House of Broken Angels. And this will be filmed very end of this month. And this is about a Mexican-American family. It's also supposed to be funny and profound. So I think the best one right here, a pan-generational family saga with an enormous bounding heart of poetic delivery and plenty of swagger. A book about celebration that is itself a celebration. So this will be the one towards the end. And you can now pick this up here at Vista Grande Library. You come to the Circ desk and sign out. And we have some copies available and ready for you guys to go. So thank you so much for joining, and I will see you later.